Welcome to Glowing Success. My name is Heidi and I am your host. This podcast is for beauty entrepreneurs. Join me weekly as we dive into the beauty industry's ins and outs, from business strategies, top-selling services, and taboo topics. I will be interviewing industry leaders with empowering stories and game-changing insights. Let's illuminate your path to success together. Let's jump into this next episode. Welcome back to Glowing Success. My episode today is all about how I got kicked out of my first beauty school. Yep, you heard that right. I got kicked out of my first beauty school. So originally I went to full cosmetology school, and this school is no longer open. They closed. I think they filed bankruptcy, but that has nothing to do with my story. So anyway, I went to school kind of young, probably not young for some people, but young for maybe my mindset. So I think I was like 20 or 21 at the time. And I always have been in the beauty industry, so worked in the beauty industry front desk for a very long time, ever since I was 16. So I've been around the beauty industry so long. So I figured, okay, why not go and be a professional, be a service provider? So I went to full cosmetology because I actually went to a high school that had a cosmetology magnet. So Edison in Northeast Minneapolis had a cosmetology magnet back in the day. Now, when funding gets cut in public schools, that's usually programs like that are the first to get cut. So I'm guessing they don't have it any longer, or probably even cut it shortly after I graduated. So during my freshman and sophomore year, I was able to do cosmetology type services at school. I was learning cosmetology already. If I had gone from freshman to senior year, I would have graduated high school with my cosmetology license. So that was like the cool thing about that program, being in high school. So anyway, I did not finish at that high school. So that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother day. Yes, I have gotten kicked out of 2 different schools in my life, but I won't be talking about that today. I'm specifically focusing on getting kicked out of my first beauty school. So I've been in the beauty industry a long time. I've had experience, with school already at this point. So I decided, okay, let me actually take this serious and go back to school, right? So I'm in school. I have about 1,000 hours done, and life is just lifing. I got distracted by partying, got distracted by just life in general, and wasn't taking school very serious at that time. So I was not going consistently at that time. So if you can imagine, this is definitely a trend in my life. I'm partying, friends, just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing was taking over everywhere. So got kicked out. So because beauty school is all about hours, right? I mean, anybody who's listening that's been to beauty school knows that you have to get a certain amount of hours in order to graduate and to take your state licensing test. So if you skip a certain amount of days in beauty school, you automatically get kicked out. So that is why I got kicked out of that school, because I missed too many days. And they were like, hey, you can't do that. We're going to have to kick you out. So, that whole process taught me a lot. So not only did it teach me I just wasn't ready for school at the time, and I ended up going to full aesthetic school and massage school later in my 20s. But I will say, it taught me a lot about what I was interested in the industry. So while I was at school, I hated hair color. I hated nails. I hated certain things, So I really felt drawn to the aesthetic side. I always got excited when we had aesthetic classes. I always got excited when I had aesthetic clients, because I was on the floor by the time I got kicked out. So we were able to take clients and so forth. So anyway, I got excited about that. So I did learn that, hey, hair was definitely not for me, because I had been working in hair shops previous to this. I've been around a lot of hair services. One of my aunts growing up had a hair salon. So hair was kind of a bigger thing in my life before this. And so I was just thinking I was going to go into hair. I was going to be a stylist, and that's kind of what I was drawn to at that time, because that's what a lot of was around. When I was in the cosmetology magnet at my high school, I was really interested in brow waxes, and I did a lot of brow waxes. So the cool thing about having the salon and the school inside the high school is there was a certain time period during the day where we could take services and we could do stuff on people. And so I would have friends come in and get their brows waxed by me. So that was kind of cool. But I knew that I was kind of interested in aesthetics in certain ways. I just wasn't able to explore it at that time as much, right? So obviously going to cosmetology school kind of taught me that. And so by the time I got kicked out, I was like, you know what, whatever. I had other things going on in my life. And actually after that, I did get another job at another salon, a high-end salon. And that experience taught me a lot as well. I won't mention the salon, but that taught me a lot about just a higher level salon or a salon that charges more. The salons that I had worked in previous to this were all chain salons. So, it's such a different experience. And I'll say that I worked at Great Clips. So I loved working at Great Clips. Actually, I worked at Great Clips because it was close to my house. Well, it was close to where I went to school. And when we were in the cosmetology magnet, they suggested that we get a job in the field. And so I was like, okay. So I started applying to different places. I didn't want to work at my aunt's salon because I don't think she was hiring for front desk at that time anyway. But so I hired at the Great Clips. I was like kind of close by and I got hired on there. So that's essentially, but I worked there from basically, I think from 16 to almost 19 years old. So quite a while. And so I had a lot of experience working in that type of field. So anyway, when I got kicked out of beauty school, I still wanted to be in the field. So I got another job at a high-end salon. Very high end. We're giving like champagne and wine out to people. There's definitely just a different level of customer service that was offered there too, and then different type of services too. So that was a full salon. So definitely crazy experiences. And so I hopped to my late 20s and I was like, okay, let's try this again. I'm much more level-headed. I had moved out of state and then moved back into state. So I lived in California for a while and then moved back to Minnesota. And at that time, I was just like, all right, this is about renewal at this point. So I wanted to renew my life. I wanted to take charge of my life a little bit differently. I was I was just not having a good time in general with a lot of things I was doing. Now, I was doing things to get me by. I had a job, don't get me wrong. I had, a good living situation. I was making good money for what I did for a living, but I just wasn't happy inside. So I kept on listening to that intuition and I was like, I think I need to go back to school and I still want to be in the beauty industry. I think I'm going to explore aesthetics. Now, mind you, I also at this time, probably in my mid-20s, I started getting really bad acne. And it was to the point where it was just embarrassing. I would hide, I wouldn't want to go out and be social sometimes. I was trying every product line under the sun. I was battling it. And mind you, in high school, in my early 20s, I didn't have any issues with my skin. I hardly wore makeup. Like if you see pictures of me, you'd be like, wow. So obviously hormones play a big role in our 20s, right? And so I'm guessing that's where a lot of my acne came from around that time. And some of it was probably just exfoliation and just in general not exfoliating properly or over exfoliating and ruining my barrier function, which I now know. But so when I decided to go back to aesthetics, not only did I jump back to that intuition of like, okay, when I was in full cosmetology school, that's one thing I really loved and felt I gravitated towards. But I also was battling my own skin issues and feeling alone and feeling like I bought everything and feeling like I didn't have any help anywhere. So that really kind of, it was definitely a driving force behind me going to aesthetics. So I decided to go back to school, and I had a lot of people tell me that was a bad choice. I had a lot of people kind of advise me no, because I did, like I said, have a good job at the time. I paid my bills. I lived alone in downtown Minneapolis. I was, living on paper what looked like a good life. But I wasn't happy, and I wasn't in the beauty industry during that time either. So I wanted to get back in the beauty industry. I had friends that were having so much fun in the beauty industry, and I was seeing what they were doing and just kind of jealous. So Anyways, I decided to go back to school. I went back to Aveda and first went back for aesthetics, did really good in aesthetics. So I will say, like, during this time, I feel like I hit my educational peak, so to speak. So I did really well in school. I had a little bit of issues socially. So there was a few people in my class that were definitely I don't know, just a little bit more aggressive with the other students. They were making kind of a bad environment for students, but I think that happens in any schooling environment where you're always going to interact with people that you're either not going to get along with or you're going to have a hard time with. But I still persevered through that. I still got good grades. I did really good on my tests, and I did really good on everything else. And I felt that passion the whole time I was going to school. So I will say, like, it was such a crazy time in my life, but looking back on it, I'm like, I'm glad I stick to what my intuition was telling me. I'm glad I stuck to like just that, right? Because hello, it's giving me a great career. And then a year later, actually, or probably less than a year later, I went back to Aveda again and I went back for massage. So I've always been interested in body mechanics. I've always been interested in the body. I've always been in fitness alongside of all this. And so fitness has always been kind of part of my life. I used to be on TV for a while for fitness, just to give you a little indication of that too. So I was like, I really like the massage portion of facials. I really want to kind of dive deeper into that. I like the relaxation piece. I just love anatomy in general. So I went back for massage and I'm really glad I did because I did massage for a while, loved it. And I think it really pairs well with aesthetics, like especially if you're leaning towards that facial side and leaning towards that relaxation side. And it just helps in so many ways, like pressure points. Like there's just so many different things I learned in massage school. Like you take a lot of anatomy in massage school. And so you learn so much about the body. And I think I joke about this to the day of like, I think I could take anatomy classes every year and learn something new about the body. Because there's just so much. So, but I loved my time in massage school and I actually really appreciated like all of that. And I love massage. I don't do massage a lot right now, but I have days where I miss it and I have days where I'm like, should I get back into massage? Like I've definitely thought about it. But okay, so I graduated from Aveda from aesthetics and massage, have started my business right out of school. So I was already determined by that point of like, I want to do things my way. I know, and I'm determined to start this business. Like I already knew what I wanted to kind of go into. So when I lived in California, I learned a lot about lash extensions, and lash extensions at that time was like just kind of becoming popular in America. It had been probably popular in Asia for a while and probably Europe for a while. So America was just kind of picking it up and I was exposed to it. I didn't get it done, but I was exposed to it by a lot of people I was friends with in like a lot of different salons and spas out there in the area that I lived. And so I'd already been exposed to that. So by the time I moved back to Minnesota, by the time I decided to go back to aesthetics, that was definitely on my brain. I was like, okay, I want to learn how to do lash extensions. I feel like with my personality type, so I'm very focused on details. And sometimes that's a good thing and a bad thing in my life. Like it can be bad because you're so focused on details that you tend to be maybe on the OCD side or you tend to be in a perfectionist mindset side. So it can definitely be a bad thing. But for me, doing lashes, like, and having so much attention to detail has been amazing. Like it helps me so much. Like, and I love that I can just focus in. So that's the other thing I like about massage too, is I can just really focus in and get really, in the zone, so to speak. And those are the times where I love. So I have been doing lashes for 13 years. I have loved it. I have loved building my business over the last 13 years as well. So all of these choices, in life, we have to think about like, okay, what led us here? And so I was thinking about my journey today and how, if I would have told somebody I have gotten kicked out of 2 schools, so I got kicked out of high school and I got kicked out of my first beauty school, they would think that, I'm not going to be anything. I'm not going to amount to anything. I'm not going to have any success in my life. I'm not going to be driven. I'm not smart. Or, there's all these things that people can categorize you with. But what I'm really trying to do with this episode is really inspire you and say, hey, if you've gone through anything in life, just know that, that's part of your journey and don't be afraid of it. Like for a really long time, I would not I probably would never bring this up to anybody in any type of conversation. I wouldn't let them know like, hey, I got kicked out of high school. I had to go to an alternative school my junior and senior year. I got kicked out of my first beauty school, didn't go back until my late 20s. Like those things would have been maybe embarrassing or a little bit like, oh, I don't know if this person's going to judge me. But as I've gotten older, I'm going to be 40 this year. I've really realized like that is part of my journey. That's part of who I am. And I also take that as like, those are some of the things and experiences that probably inspired me to make decisions that I have today, or make the decisions that really impacted my career and my life today. So you can't discredit those. I definitely learned from every experience in my life. So whether it's a bad experience or a good experience, I've definitely learned from it. So take that, you guys. Like if you're listening and you're going through something, just know that there is another side to that situation, because I've definitely been in situations where you just feel dark, you feel alone, you feel not supported, you feel, am I ever going to get out of this situation? Is it ever going to get better? Is it ever going to improve? Like, am I going to do anything? And yes, but you have to be determined and you have to follow that intuition. That's kind of what I've lent on. And so I will say, like, keep on going, follow that intuition, find people that are inspiring, find people that do believe in you, because that's what I had to do. I had to attach myself to people, so to speak, that really helped me in those really dark days. So I still remember I had this manager at Great Clips, and I forgot her name now just because it's been so long, but I just loved her. She was such a mothering spirit. I had actually quite a few people at that Great Clips that I worked with that really took me under their wing, saw my potential. I would actually even do some brow waxes on them after work, people, not on the clock. Those people, I probably don't know how much they impacted my life at the time, but and I wish I could run into those people nowadays. That would be so cool. But and so you grab onto those people, right? You grab onto those people that really are going to inspire you and be looking after you and cheering for you and things like that. Because during those dark times, you need a little bit of light, right? So if you're going through that, find people who are inspiring, find people who are, supporting you. And you could be doing that online. Facebook groups are really good for that. There's a lot of good inspiration on that, or people in your life, but connect to that, because once you can get through that hard time, there's so much cool stuff on the other side. So I have experienced and, built this crazy company that I love and I'm so proud of nowadays, and it's given other people job opportunities, and hopefully I'll offer opportunities in the future. But if I wouldn't have kept on going, none of this would have happened. So I really appreciate those people that kind of led me to that, and cheered me on and so forth. But anyway, I hope you feel inspired by this conversation. I hope you feel inspired by this episode, because not everything is all sparkles and rainbows in life, but you can turn it around and you can make something super fabulous with it. So thank you for listening today. I hope you liked that episode and found something useful or a tip that you can use immediately. If you are wanting more marketing tips, business tips, or anything like that, I have a lot of resources on my website. So I have PDFs that you can download for free. So look in your show notes. There should be a link in the show notes that you can click on, and it'll take you right to my coaching website. And thanks for listening.